Paladins! They're finally here, which means I get to make a new class guide, which I really quite like. It's been a while since I've done one of these. As a Paladin, we get to choose our subclass at level 1, and this is very different to 5th edition where we have to wait until level 3. It's kind of nice. At the moment, we've got 2 subclasses we can pick during character creation. If you watch Panel from Hell, you'll realise that there's a 3rd subclass. I'll get to that later. So as Paladins, what do we get? We get Wisdom saving throw proficiency, which is lovely because we can defend against the nasty control spells using our Wisdom saving throw. Also, we get Charisma. That doesn't come up so often. We are proficient with all types of armor, including shields and all weapons, which is very, very nice. And we get Channel Oath charges, a bit like Channel Divinity for clerics. So we get to channel some power contained in our Oath, and they are replenished on a short rest or long rest, which is quite nice because some of these are very good. For Oath of the Ancients, we get Healing Radiance, which heals twice our level over 2 turns, immediately when it's cast and the start of the next turn. It says 2 healing now. This is obviously not very good, but as you level up and get to level 4 and level 5, it starts to heal much, much more. And yeah, it's 2 lots of healing for a bonus action, which is really nice and doesn't require concentration. It just works. For the Oath of Devotion, we have Holy Rebuke. To call upon your oath to grant an ally a vengeful aura that deals 1d4 radiant damage to anyone who hits them with a melee attack for 2 turns. I don't like this one quite as much because it only lasts 2 turns and it's just kind of just 1d4 radiant damage. It's not bad. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just I much prefer the healing one. Having played up until level 5 with Paladins now, Oath of the Ancients doesn't exactly replace a cleric, but gets lots of extra healing, which is nice. Now, one thing they both have in common, they have Lay on Hands, so you can use your Blessed Touch to heal a creature or cure it of all diseases and poisons, which is really, again, really nice. Kind of does some of the job that a cleric can do. I'll show you that later. And Divine Sense, all Paladins get this. Tap into your spiritual awareness to gain advantage on attack rolls against celestial, fiends, and undeads. We don't have a huge number of them during early access, so we've got more undead, we've got some fiends on the Nautiloid, but we don't come across fiends otherwise. And I don't think we've got any celestials we come across so far. But it's free, it's a bonus action, comes back on a short rest. Anyway, so that's a brief overview of what we get for each of the subclasses. Now let's talk about ability scores next. I'll come back to race after that. So we can see here there's a star next to strength. This is because most weapons require strength. In 5th edition and Dungeons and Dragons, it's quite common that Paladins will stock up on strength so they can wear heavy armor and wield any weapons. However, quite sadly, we start with medium armor still, which does mean if you're going to use medium armor, you do need some dexterity. I'd say as a very minimum 12. I still like to preferentially have 14, so we get a maximum of our +2 to armor class for medium armor. We also, though, do require charisma. It doesn't say it here. I'm just reading this for the first time. Right, affects your charisma skills, fine. Influences traders' prices, fine. And improves spellcasting for bards, sorcerers, warlocks, and paladins for some of the spells. So you're kind of multiple attribute dependent, sometimes known as MAD, where you want strength and charisma as high as possible. You're going to be on the front lines most of the time, so you want a high constitution, especially if you're concentrating, and you want a decent dexterity in the game currently until you get some heavy armor. But I would say to lean into the stereotypical paladin, maybe your dexterity be a little bit lower, but maybe you want to make a dexidin, as you might call it, a high dexterity paladin. So you could forego the strength and have a high dexterity and just rely on finesse weapons. And if you're wielding a shield, got rapiers, which deal just as much damage as any strength weapon in one hand. It's not a bad idea, and you could use ranged weapons better as well. As for races then, I'm going to stick with building a strength-based paladin because I believe most builds will focus on that. Obviously, if you want to build a dexterity-based paladin, you go for the races that have a good dexterity, such as elves here. Now, as for strength, we've got the Zariel Tiefling here, which is strength +1 and charisma +2, both of which we need as a paladin. Makes a really good choice. We get a little bit of resistance as well, which is good. I'm going to skip that. Human is kind of good here because we do want strength, constitution, charisma, and kind of dexterity in Baldur's Gate 3, so we kind of use 4 of these 6 bonus attribute scores here. It's a bit boring, a bit bland, because we don't get any other abilities, but it's nice. And also, if we're going way back in, I think the latest was 2nd edition or Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, is to be a paladin, you had to be human. No other race was allowed. For Githyanki, the strength is great. A little bit sadly, all these proficiencies are wasted. They overlap with what the paladin already has, but of course, we get Mage Hand here. That's a bit that's okay, I suppose. But at level 3, we get Jump, which is great for a paladin. If they've got a high strength, the jump distance will be really good. And also, if you didn't know, at level 5, you now get Misty Step. Again, pretty good. Dwarves here, the Constitution is kind of nice, and we have advantage against saving throws against poison and resistance to poison damage. If you're going to pick a dwarf, I would definitely go for shield dwarf because we get strength +2 and constitution +2, both of which we want. But with a strength dwarf, a bit like with the Githyanki, light armor, medium armor proficiency, we've already got that, and the same with the weapons. I'll come back to half elf in a minute. Halflings, not really. And unless you're making a dexterity-based paladin, in which case the lightfoot halfling would be pretty good, dexterity and charisma. Gnomes, if you're going for ability scores, I mean, in dexterity here is the only thing we really get that's very useful. Of course, if you're making a character just based off their backstory, you like a particular race, you don't need to worry about any of these abilities. But I've left half elf till last because they're basically top of the pack, because we get charisma +2, which is what we want. And then we get to pick any 2 other ability scores. I'd pick strength for sure, and either dexterity or constitution, it hardly matters which one. Plus we get Fey Ancestry, so we're not going to be slept, and we get some dark vision. If you're picking a high elf, we get a cantrip. Maybe you want to pick friends because you're going to have at least a half decent charisma. But yeah, you can pick up a cantrip of your choice, maybe Blade Ward, maybe Minor Illusion, or you go with Wood Elf because you want that extra movement speed so you can smite your enemies sooner, or you get proficiency in stealth. Really not bad. As for your skills, I mean, if you're going to be in melee, I suppose athletics is what you're going to go for. For your background, it just, whichever skills you want. Pick your background, not so important, because you will have the option to have athletics proficiency anyway. Alright, next up I'm going to go through and show you a few of the abilities and go level by level and show you what options you can get and also how to get the 3rd subclass. This isn't quite the first place we can use Divine Sense, but I do just want to point out, oops. Also, we have a new ping option. I just want to point out that imps and Cambions are fiends. So I'm going to use Divine Sense. You use it on yourself, 100% chance. And now we have this down here. Has advantage on attack rolls against celestial fiends and undead. So if we just walk up here and shoot, you can see advantage, Divine Sense. And that's a kill. And it lasts for 2 turns. So if I wait until the next turn, we'll go to Mazzy Fentav, and she still has advantage. Easy stuff. Paladin hunting down fiends. My party did some firewalking, hence all of their slightly damaged bodies. And here is the Oath of the Ancients Paladin with their healing radiance, 2 healing. It's 2 times the level. Again, it's not a huge amount, but we cast it. We get +2 now, and we can see this is counting down here. And then anyone who's within 10 feet again, including herself, gets 2 more hit points. This works really well with the items that buff healing. So if you want the ring or the gloves that give bonuses to healing on an Oath of the Ancients Paladin using healing radiance is amazing, and we do it once every short rest. You can do it again and so on. So yeah, look out for those items if you make a Oath of the Ancients Paladin. Onto the Oath of Devotion and their Channel Oath ability, Holy Rebuke. I'm going to stick that on, I think Lae'zel will do. Now hopefully this works, because she has to actually be hit to be able for this to work out. So she has Holy Rebuke. Attackers take 1d4 radiant damage when they hit with a melee attack. I'm hoping those 2 go for her. It's a miss. And a miss. I'm just going to skip through again. Oops. I think everyone else's armor class is actually higher than Lae'zel's at the moment. Right, so that's gone away, but I do currently have... No, not you. Not you. There you are. Do still have another Oath of Devotion. So we're going to try again.
Let's go.
There we are. Took 2 damage. Ooh, she might actually die this time. I've got to go sort that out. So, trying to sort that out. Get a bit closer. Lay on Hands. Let's just talk about that now, since I need to use it. It takes an action to cast, so it isn't a bonus action like the Channel Oath ability here for the Oath of the Ancients. And we have 2 types of Lay on Hands, Greater Healing or Lesser. Lesser Healing does 2 times your level in healing, and Greater does 4 times your level in healing. The Greater one uses 2 Lay on Hands charges, whereas the Lesser one only uses 1 charge. So if you want to heal a lot in one go, I'd go for the Greater Healing. And it's a set amount of healing. It's not like some of the healing spells that clerics or paladins get, where you're kind of rolling on a die. It's an exact amount, so we know how much we're going to be getting. Alright, let's hope she survives. Ah, well, we saw it. We saw it once at least. This could be quite good if you've got a single character up in melee with a lot of characters. There we are, 1d4. And you expect them to get hurt quite a lot. Or if you just want to have it on there, someone to boost the damage a bit. It's okay, it's a bit less reliable. I personally prefer the Healing Radiance a little bit more than Holy Rebuke. So here we are. We have a new level up button. We can click on the button straight away, go to the level up screen. And level 2 is when all the great and best stuff starts happening, because we get some level 1 spell slots, and importantly we have Divine Smite. We also get to pick a fighting style. I'll show you Divine Smite later. We get some spells. The first few, or some of which we've seen on the cleric spell list before, like Bless, Command, Cure Wounds, Protection from Evil and Good, Shield of Faith. We've also seen Heroism before on a Bard. What's new for the Paladin is Compelled Duel. So if the enemy fails a Wisdom saving throw, then they have disadvantage on attack rolls against anyone but you. And then we have 3 Smite spells. We have 3 Smite spells, which I think is a little bit confusing. So we've got Divine Smite, and then Searing Smite, Thunderous Smite, and Wrathful Smite. So this Searing Smite is a bit like what we've seen before. So if you hit, then the enemy takes 1d6 fire damage and 1d6 fire damage at the beginning of their turn, unless they make a Constitution saving throw to pass. Thunderous Smite, I think this is kind of the cool one, because you get to knock someone back or knock them prone if you hit them, plus 2d6 thunder damage. And Wrathful Smite, you frighten them and do 1d6 psychic damage. Unfortunately, each of these smites require concentration and require an action and bonus action. That bit annoys me a little bit. And we get fighting style. We don't get all the same fighting styles. We get defense, so +1 bonus to armor class, which is always going to be good. Dueling, if you're wielding a shield or using a shield, dueling will be good because the weapon in your other hand will do an extra 2 damage each time. It's quite a good one to have, I think. Great weapon fighting. If you're going to be going around without a shield and you've got a two-handed weapon, this one's okay. And protection, we've had this before on the fighter. If you've got a shield, you can impose disadvantage on enemies who attacks an ally within 5 feet of you. It does require your reaction though, and you might want to be using your reaction for something else. I would probably personally often go for defense and dueling because they're just constant bonuses we get every single time. Though they're not big and flashy, they do the job, they're consistent. And there's no difference between the Oath of Devotion and Oath of the Ancients here. Let's just show that. So this is Oath of the Ancients, and we've got all the same choices. So before I show you a smite, I do need to show you and talk about the reaction system. So you can click on this icon, or the hotkey that's automatically configured is L. I've just pressed. And we get some reactions. Now, some people have been asking, how do I turn on my opportunity attack? Well, we currently can't. They only seem to have put some spells into this reactions tab, which is a bit strange. I don't really know why they didn't put attack of opportunity in here as well. There's no reason not to. We've got 2 boxes to tick. We've got the one on the left. If I leave these checked here and the ask unchecked, anytime I hit with a weapon attack, Divine Smite will be applied. If I want the game to ask me about it, I click on ask. I would probably advise that you leave Divine Smite on critical hit just on. If you kill something with a critical hit before the smite would apply, you don't actually use the spell slot, you don't smite them, so it's kind of safe. So I'm just going to check all of my Paladins. I'm going to turn it on for all of them. Alright, I've got to level them up first. Let's leave on defense. And then I'm going to try it on the Intellect Devourers just up here. So I want to point out before I start that smiting does not work on ranged attacks. It doesn't have any, or thrown weapons. So if we start with a javelin, hopefully this doesn't kill Devourer. Also, well, there is a bug. We just saw it here. I don't know when it happens exactly. My Paladin threw a javelin and he got hurt for 13 damage because it fell and hurt him. I did quite well with the piercing damage and fell and hurt the Intellect Devourer. Right, so be careful of throwing javelins, basically. Hopefully we'll be able to hit this Intellect Devourer. Oh, if I hit it, it's going to kill it anyway. I just want to point out, there we are. I hit it, I killed it. It didn't ask for a smite. It didn't smite because the enemy was already dead. And then I'm going to have to leave this last Intellect Devourer to come towards us. If I can show you smiting. So I equipped some different weapons so we do less damage, so I'm less likely to kill them. So I hit them. I didn't do a critical hit, so there was no smite automatically added. Now it asks me choose how to react. If I click on this top button, I'll do Divine Smites, like so. And do 2d8, I've got 14, that's pretty good as things go. And killed it. Now, Paladins don't get very many spell slots which recharge on the long rest. I would generally advise Smite on a critical hit is always going to be good, because you're going to do 4d8 damage. The damage is doubled, which is lovely. And also use your Divine Smite if you're going to kill an enemy, or if you've got a turn coming up with someone else and you think you're going to kill them with a second hit. Obviously, if you smite at a high number of hit points on an enemy, you will, it helps do damage, but you will burn through your spell slots very quickly. And you might find yourself taking more long rests than you normally would, though at the moment there's still not much of a problem. Loads of camp supplies are around. So here we are at level 3. We'll start with Oath of Devotion. as this one is. So at level 3, we get another level 1 spell slot. We get Divine Health. This is pretty cool. This prevents diseases from affecting you. Don't really have many diseases right now, but it's just a nice ribbon ability to have that if it comes up, you'll be glad you have it. We get a new subclass feature. Right, so Oath of Devotion has Sacred Weapon. This uses a Channel Oath charge. Imbue the weapon in your main hand with positive energy, turning it into a sacred weapon. Wielder's Charisma modifier is added to attack rolls, not damage. Okay, helps you hit, but it isn't damage. It has become magical and emits light. So it does two things at once, increases your attack rolls and provides light, which is useful in the Underdark, which is why you don't want a low charisma as a paladin, very minimum 12. And so we can see here with the, I used a Lightfoot halfling for this paladin, my strength's only 15, but that did allow me to get my constitution, dexterity and charisma at 14, a bit of a trade-off there. And this will help her hit enemies better because of her charisma can be added to this. Main downside to this is that it uses an action, so you use this on the first turn of combat. Well, you've got to use it on your first turn of combat. You can use it beforehand. It lasts 10 turns, so if you know you're going to be in a combat soon, might be worth using it before combat, to be honest. Right, what else do we get? We get Turn the Unholy. Turn has a specific meaning here, right? It means an enemy can't take actions or bonus actions or reactions other than dash or try to get away from the thing that affects the movement. It will end upon taking damage, though. So Turn the Unholy means we turn nearby fiends and undead. Then as always prepared spells, protection from evil and good. Again, we've had that before. And Sanctuary. I kind of like this spell. I haven't used it much yet, but I'll show you why I like it later. So ward yourself or an ally against enemy attacks. It requires a bonus action. Very nice. Doesn't require concentration, very nice, and until the affected entity attacks or harms another creature, cannot be targeted by enemy attacks, any enemy attack. However, it can still take damage from spells that influence a larger area, so it doesn't stop area of effect abilities. And kind of a nice way of using this perhaps is using this on another ally who is concentrating on something. You don't want them being attacked, such as Gale on, I don't know, Cloud of Daggers or Haste now that we've got level 5, or on Shadowheart concentrating on Bless or something. This does require a spell slot, but fewer attacks against your ally means fewer concentration checks. You still have to be careful of other effects and things, but it's a nice little thing there without concentration. And then Oath of the Ancients, same thing at the top there. Down below, we can now use our Channel Oath charge, invoke Primeval Forces to restrain an enemy, or Prima Evil. I don't think that's supposed to be AE. Anyway, so they have to take a strength saving throw, which some enemies have very high strength saving throws, sadly, but otherwise they get entangled, which is nice. They can't move, and then attack rolls against them have advantage, while the enemies' attack rolls and dexterity saving throws have disadvantage. So if you can restrain someone, it's really powerful. I'm not entirely convinced it's worth a Channel Oath charge, but it is what it is. We'll take it. And turn the Faithless. This time you turn Fae and Fiends. We also get Speak with Animals and Ensnaring Strike. This is kind of a, well, it's obviously, I think, a nature sort of based oath, a mix between kind of a Druid, Ranger, and Paladin. Druids don't get Ensnaring Strike. I guess it's more like a Ranger here, actually, because Rangers get Ensnaring Strike and Speak with Animals. But these are okay. And see here, I used a Wood Half Elf, sorry, and similar to the Lightfoot Halfling, except with a strength of 16 instead of 15. And we're an elf, so we can't be put to sleep. Alright, after level 3, kind of decided it's about time to show you how to find the hidden subclass. And if you do anything a little bit evil, well, I say a little bit, if you start attacking random people who are not already aggressive towards you, you're basically murdering people. And the game lets you know that by you become an Oathbreaker. So I'm going to use the same situation that Larian did, because it's kind of one of the soonest times, one of the quickest times we can do it. Just attack the tieflings. And if you're being sneaky like I am, only the paladins that are involved in this situation will have their oaths broken. I've left 2 behind. They're stuck all the way over here. They're not going to become Oathbreakers because they don't know what's going on. And so I'll go about murdering these tieflings and then show you what happens. In fact, even before the end of the battle, we can see here I'm an Oathbreaker. Oath broken. You've broken your sacred oath. And at the moment, I can't use any Channel Oath charges, which is actually really bad. You should go to camp and contemplate what happened and what comes next. So this we will do.
A spasm grips your chest.
This is the cutscene we get.
Strength falters. An emptiness grows within you, Paladin. Something has been lost.
You have broken your oath, Paladin. At the close of day, I will be waiting for you.
So when we go to camp, we'll go and talk to the Oathbreaker Knight. There he is. And before I go any further, I do just want to point out, kind of interestingly, he is undead. People have already killed him. I haven't tried it yet. He is a bit tough. He's level 12, but we should be able to do it. Anyway, we go and speak to the dude, and he's kind of happy. He's come to speak to us. The first few choices don't really seem to make a difference. So he calls us an Oathbreaker. We tell him why we did it. We've got 5 options. He gives a comment. Then you can immediately, if you want to, you can become an Oathbreaker, and it changes your subclass, which I'm going to do now. We get a nice little cutscene. He towers over us.
Or ill. Your oath no longer binds you.
And immediately we get a screen as if we've leveled up to level 3. So we've now become an Oathbreaker officially. Our new channel Oath charge is Spiteful Suffering. The enemy has to make a Charisma saving throw against our spell save DC. So the enemy takes 1d4 plus 2. That plus 2 will have come from our Charisma modifier. Necrotic damage each turn. It's not a huge amount. It's okay. It starts to add up over 3 turns, I suppose. And this is quite important, kind of the best bit. Attack rolls against it have advantage for everybody. Also, at level 3, we get Hellish Rebuke and Inflict Wounds as always prepared spells. Hellish Rebuke uses a reaction, and you can use it in the reaction tab. Inflict Wounds is just like the cleric spell. This time we can control undead. The target's level must be lower than yours though. And Dreadful Aspect, this one's quite good. Let the darkest emotions burst forth as a menacing pulse to frighten nearby enemies. And it's a 30-foot radius. If you've got a lot of enemies, especially near like goblins, and use this, you're going to frighten several goblins, and they're going to just be stuck in place and have a disadvantage on attack rolls. It's quite good. It's quite a good area of effect. Otherwise, the spells they have access to are the same. It is entirely possible that you accidentally break your oath because you attacked someone who isn't already in combat. Pretty much attacking anyone who is neutral NPC and you kill them will get you your broken oath. So I did that here. My oath is broken, but I haven't taken the Oathbreaker subclass. But what you can do is, after going through the conversation with this dude, don't choose to become an Oathbreaker, and then come and speak to him again, and you can wish to take up your oath again.
It is possible. First, you must
Material sacrifice ends up being 2,000 gold. So if you accidentally break your oath and you don't want to reload, and you have 2,000 gold lying around, you can get your oath back. Pick some reason. It doesn't matter what you pick, he'll always give it back to you. And we get this cutscene, which I'll show you. I haven't seen this floating around very much so far. Though he's not saying anything, don't know why. I'm also not quite sure why he can give us our oath back. But yes, the Oath of Devotion is once more yours to fulfill. And now I've got my I've actually need a long rest, but I can now use my channel Oath abilities again. To keep it in mind, it's not the end of the world if you've got 2,000 gold lying around. Now I've just reloaded and I'm back on the Oathbreaker again. I'm going to speak to the Oathbreaker Knight. We should take up my oath again. And you can reclaim your oath even if you've become an Oathbreaker. Pay 2,000 gold, pick one of the options, go through the cutscene, and we go back to being Oath of Devotion. So if you want to regain your oath, you can pay 2,000 gold, which seems, I don't know, a bit like bribery. Not quite a Paladin thing, but oh well, there we are, there we have it. You can go back to your original oath. So I'm going to come to level 4. Now at level 4, all Paladins, all characters get an ability score improvement. There's nothing else really new. We get an extra lay on hands charge, we can prepare one extra spell. And so let's go through this. What choices should we make, or could we make at level 4? That would be good. If you're a melee Paladin and you're using Sword and Shield, perhaps Strength +2 is an obvious choice, because you're going to hit more often and hit a little bit harder. Some of you might want to be more spellcaster type of Paladin. Maybe you'll put your Charisma up. I probably wouldn't put Dexterity or Constitution up. You can if you want, wouldn't be a bad choice. As for feats, I think the usual ones that are good for fighters will be good for Paladins, because we are often up in melee. So if you want to be dual wielding, like Warhammers, like the Intransigent Warhammer and Faithbreaker, for example, pick dual wielder. Unfortunately, Paladins don't get the fighting style that's 2-weapon fighting style, so we don't get our modifier added to offhand attacks, which is a bit sad. If you're wielding a Great Weapon Master is going to be good. We don't need any of the heavily armored feats, or any of the armored feats, because we're already proficient with all the armors. These won't help. Perhaps you want Magic Initiate if you've got a decent charisma. Give yourself extra options, perhaps Blade Wards, maybe Friends, maybe one of the light spells. I don't often go for these other cantrips or bards, and then pick a spell of your choice, some of which we've already got access to though, which is kind of interesting. Sorcerer and Warlock would also work because their spells are based off charisma, so you could get, I don't know, Shocking Grasp, whichever of these cantrips you want. And as for a spell, I always find having a single spell slot for the day, it's a bit hard to pick a spell. Maybe Jump, maybe Long Stride. Oh, there's no Long Strider here, is there? Maybe False Life, but it's just 7 temporary hit points at the end of the day. It's not worth, I don't think that's worth spending a feat on. Warlock, Maybe you want to pick up Eldritch Blast. You can't get any bonuses to it though, obviously. Maybe you want to pick up Hex. Who knows? Or another chance to cast Hellish Rebuke. Or Armor of Agathis is okay. I probably wouldn't pick up Martial Adept just because we only get a single superiority dice. If there was 2, then perhaps I would take it, but with just a single one, you're going to use it very quickly. Mobile is always a good choice. Get extra movement speed, and you don't provoke opportunity attacks from a target. Shield Master, maybe, if you're wielding a shield. Quite often, though, if you're going to do this, I would just say put Dexterity up by 2 anyway. Skilled, if you want to pick up more skills. Tough isn't a bad choice, being a frontliner. Increase that pool of hit points. Weapon Master we don't need, because we are proficient with all weapons. And one slightly sad thing is I have noticed in this patch, they've taken out what used to be here. There used to be dart proficiency and sling proficiency, and it looks like they've been taken out. I don't know if that's just out of early access or they just completely got rid of those weapons. But they were in the game files before, but now they're gone. So a little bit sad. Also, worth noting, we don't have any new feats, which is a bit disappointing. Over the last few patches, because we've had some new classes, like spellcasting classes, we've gained some extra feats, which are nice. And we had Performer as well, but there we are, there we have it. So for most of my Paladins, if I'm not using a greatsword or great weapon, I'll probably be putting strength +2. A little bit boring, but it does its job. It's consistent. So yeah, it just makes a choice that you would normally make for maybe a fighter or barbarian or something like that, because we are melee characters primarily. Before I show you level 5, I've got a couple of other things I want to show you. One being the Tadpole Power. So if you use your Tadpole Power enough, you will get this ability called Fracture Psyche. Invade a target's mind and disrupts its defenses. The target's armor class is reduced by 1. If the target dies, you can cast Shatter Psyche on another target. So the enemy has to make an intelligence save against your spell save DC, which for Paladin here is 13. And then if that target dies within the 5 turns, we can then do Shatter Psyche, which is the same thing, but with a -2 reduction to armor class. I mean, I guess it's okay. But the disappointing thing is that the armor class is only reduced by 1, and every little helps. I get it, but it's only against a single target. So against a boss, maybe this would be a better use, and just hopefully the boss has a low enough intelligence that it works okay. What should we do? That's just a tank. Oh, perfect. Look at that. Got a critical hit. And so I had my smite critical hit. There we are, 41 damage, it's dead. So if I come back to her, right, she can't use it this turn because she doesn't have an action, but now she could use Shatter Psyche next turn. And let's just skip to her next turn. And so here we are, Shatter Psyche. I'm going to pick one with the best chance to work. So 70% here, it's not the best. They passed. Which is unfortunate. Now, interestingly, it's the next turn. She can recast Shatter Psyche, it doesn't disappear. Which is really what we want, because now there's a -2 to armor class. That's starting to get significant. That's an extra wholesale, like 10% extra, so from 75% chance to hit to 85% chance. Now 90% for this dude because his strength's higher or something, I think. I wonder, does this stack Fracture and Shattered Psyche? I'll wait until next turn to see if I can find out. This is my last chance for Fracture Psyche to work. There we are. It does work. So, if we look at armor class here, the 2 stack, so if you've got 2 Paladins, it's kind of very good on a boss. Small Claw's armor class here is now 8, which is ridiculously low, considering the standard armor class is 10. It'd be nice if it could affect more than one enemy or something. Earlier in the video, I showed you Lay on Hands, but I didn't get to use the Lay on Hands Cure ability because I didn't have a chance to use it. So we're here in the Underdark in the Myconid colony with Thula, and she's got Dwergar poison. So we can click on this action. It requires 2 charges to use, and it gets rid of poison. Now, something else I said earlier about Oath, the Oath of the Ancients Paladin and their Channel Oath ability Healing Radiance is at level 1. It says it's 2 healing, which is true. It's 2 times your level. At the moment, I'm level 4, and it does 12 healing, which is 3 times our level. So I'm going to go back to all the different levels that I've got and show you how much it heals on each level. So I'm back at my level 2 Oath of the Ancients Paladin, and Healing Radiance is 4 healing, which is 2 times the level. At level 3, it's 6 healing, which again is 2 times our level. I'm back on a level 4 character, and now it says 8 healing, which is 2 times our level. And then I'm back to where I was just showing off the curing poisons and diseases. I'm with my level 4 Tavadin, and it's now 12 healing. You know what, I'll go show you what it is at level 5. I will show you the level up screen for level 5 in a second. Healing Radiance here now does 3 times our level. Now it's not like... Maybe that's it then. So it might be our charisma modifier times our level. So I've got +3 to charisma checks here. My charisma is 16 times my level of 5. I'm going to go back to leveling up at level 4 and make sure our charisma is not at 16. So here is Paladin, my Oath of the Ancient Paladin. Her healing radiance is 6, which tracks with charisma of +2 times a level of 3. And if I level it up to 4, let's make sure we don't go up to charisma 15. It is 8, which is 4 times 2. So it looks like the strength of the healing radiance ability is based off both your level and charisma modifier. So if you want a really high healing radiance, get a very high charisma modifier. And so as I promised, back to the level 5 level up screen. And we don't make any choices, but we get some awesome new abilities at level 5. And this is for every character, not just paladins. So more hit points, fine. We get level 2 spell slots. So we get one extra level 1 spell slot, and I guess 2 level 2 spell slots. So that's an extra 3 times we can smite every long rest. And we get extra attack, make an additional free attack after making an unarmed or weapon attack. So we can now attack twice per round, which doubles your damage output, which is massive. We get these level 2 spells. This is for Oath of the Ancients. I don't think it's going to change. For the other oaths, we've got Aid, Less Restoration, Magic Weapon. This is a new spell. Infuse a weapon with arcane energy. It becomes a +1 weapon, pretty much, but it requires concentration. So if you lose concentration, then you've lost your bonus, but you can cast this on other people, or you can be on a ranged weapon as well. A protection from poison we've already had, and branding smite. Your weapon gleams with astral radiance as you strike and possibly marks your target with light, preventing it from turning invisible. So the affected entity sheds light in a 5-foot radius, preventing it from becoming invisible. This is good if you know ahead of time an enemy can become invisible. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't prepare this because you've only got a limited number of spells you can prepare. And then Oath of the Ancients gets 2 always prepared spells, being Misty Step. That's always lovely. It's nice having this mobility, and Moonbeam, which is amazing. This is a great spell, and I would encourage all of you druids and Oath of the Ancients paladins out there to be using it. And we'll have a look at the other oaths as well. So for the Oathbreaker, we've got the same 5 spells here. And we get Crown of Madness and Darkness, both of which are okay, but both require concentration, which is a bit sad, and it is based off your charisma modifier, these spell saves. So you do want to be having a decent, like I said earlier, a decent charisma. If it's low, these spells, some of the spells we use will not be so good. And just since I'm on a Zariel Tiefling, you get Legacy of Avernus Branding Smite, which we get anyway because we have it, but this is one that we can use once per long rest, so it should be here. And we can use it either ranged or melee, which is a bit different to the other smites that we can use at a ranged, kind of interesting. And then lastly, Oath of Devotion. Same spells here. We get Lesser Restoration and Silence. It's a little bit disappointing having Lesser Restoration because we can use our Lay on Hand charges to do exactly the same thing instead of having to use a level 2 spell slot, but it's always prepared so we don't have to go and prepare it, so I guess it's nice. As a little bonus, since I'm here with Gale, we do get access to a bunch of level 3 spells. I'm going to take probably some of the stronger spells out there, Fireball and Haste. So I'm going to go take a long rest and then go take on the Githyanki Patrol with this party. And just before I go and take on the Githyanki Patrol, something that wasn't mentioned on the level up screen, I don't believe, but is so very important, is our proficiency bonus goes from +2 to +3. So we get an extra +1 bonus to hits, and a +1 to our saving throws that we're proficient with, and +1 to all the skills we are proficient with also, which also really helps against all enemies. It makes it 5% easier to hit them, and they're 5% more likely to fail their saving throws, like I've just failed every saving throw there. Right, so this is the start of the battle. They're all really far away. I'm just going to wait for them to come closer. Also going to try and make one of them visible. There we are. They're going to move around. And then I've got a lovely little shimming that he passed. Oh, Gale. He is held, which is annoying because I wanted to use him to show you guys something. Right. So instead, I'm just going to take a potion of haste. I was going to show you haste combined with a paladin, but I do have a potion of haste. Not quite what I wanted. This uses up all of my movement. So the question is, how many attacks do we get to make? So I'm just going to use regular attacks. I might smite if I hit her, or sorry, hit him. Gish Foreth. Interestingly, they've changed the names of the Githyanki here, and also they've got fewer hit points. I think they're easier to kill now. So we get an attack, and all of these things that are now lit up are not going to use an extra action. So I'm going to actually use Divine Smite. I may as well. Nice. Concentration broken. Brilliant. That means Gale's back. Right, and I get to attack again. Missile Smite. And I get to attack again. So this isn't really how it works in Dungeons and Dragons. We become far more powerful when we are hasted now. Oh, look at that, 1 hit point left. Dead. Alright, now just, I know this is a Paladin video, but I can't help myself. Fireball here. Bonk. Look at that. Raider's almost dead. These two raiders nearly dead, and South Breath is a little bit hurt. So yeah, haste your Paladins. You will not regret it. Now, I happen to be on the Oath of the Ancients Paladin, which is so very useful, because something I've found playing with these Paladins is they're not very good at area of effect abilities. They're really good at focusing on single targets. However, I've got Moonbeam, and I've got these two who are ready to die. And at the beginning of their turns, dead. I'll take this Paladin's turn. Just very quickly. Yeah. And dead. And let's just, because, oh no, everyone's already hasted, right. Get this hasted dude. He doesn't have a weapon, I've accidentally left that behind. Oh well. With an unarmed strike, we still get to make 2 attacks in a turn. Can we use, we shouldn't be able to use, no we can't. If you're not wielding a weapon, you can't use your melee smites. You do have to be wielding a weapon. And you can't smite without a weapon at all, right? You can't use the Divine Smite. Let's try and use Spiteful Suffering. That's not a great chance. But it worked! Haha, she's going to take damage, and all attacks against her now have advantage. And we're not concentrating on Spiteful Suffering either. And so I could lob a Fireball in and kill everyone. If you make Gale an Evocation Wizard, you can use Fireball to your heart's content. Wait, yeah, this isn't about Gale. Anyway. So she's been using Disarming Attack. Just actually really annoying. Now the thing is, move Moonbeam as an action and won't allow us to have 2 attacks. There we are, action's just been used up. So you've got to decide whether, as a Paladin, you want to use 2 melee attacks or cast a spell. I'd wager most of the time, 2 attacks is what you're going to be looking for. And since I can, let's haste Mazzy here. So now, you can use 1 action to equip her weapon. And still get 2 attacks in with advantage. Because South Breath is about to die. There we are, job done. I would suggest that, oops, that was the wrong one. I would suggest that the Githyanki patrol at level, when your character's level 5 is so much easier. We've got more attacks, we've got more health, our attacks are better, our spell save DCs are higher, they're now weaker, shouldn't be too difficult compared to before. And one last thing, because we've got Oath of the Ancients Paladin, heal here 15, we just wait a second and this she'll heal another 15 damage. 15 damage, 15 health. Take a short rest and we're back up to full health. So there we have it. Let me know what you think of Paladins. What Paladins have you built? What do you like? What don't you like? I know some people are having troubles keeping to their oaths, which is understandable. My main trick here is do not start any fights outside of conversations against neutral NPCs. And I think you're mostly fine. So thank you very much for watching. If you made it this far, please do consider subscribing and I'll catch you in the next one.